I'm Dan Langan, and I could turn anything into a cake. That's why Food Network challenges me every week to a brand new cake baking challenge. This is Dan Can Bake It. Got a brand new cake box right here with this week's clue inside. Ooh, snow and ice skates. I love ice skating. I used to ice skate all the time when I was little. Believe it or not, I've never fallen. How about that? So let's see. Create a winter-inspired cake with realistic edible ice. I'm thinking snow, I'm thinking obviously ice, snowmen, evergreen trees, a frozen pond. Maybe I could even make a giant ice skate. But for the realistic edible ice, there's probably only one thing I'm gonna use for that, and that's isomalt. Isomalt's the best thing to make anything edible that looks like glass or ice. I'm gonna get in the winter frame of mind, maybe grab a cup of hot cocoa, and I'm gonna start brainstorming for this cake. What I'm gonna do is create this 4-tier cake, cover the entire thing with edible ice isomalt shards, decorated the board to have a nice snowy look, and finish the whole thing off with some fondant evergreen trees and cute little snowy characters. So I'm going with a 4-tier cake for this winter-inspired theme, and my team in the back already baked and covered in fondant 4 different cake tiers. And here I have a cake display board that I've covered with white fondant, and I kind of used a sculpting tool and my fingers to just create this kind of ripply effect that I'm hoping looks like freshly fallen snow. I'm starting with white fondant, but what I'm actually gonna do is take some piping gel and I'll paint all over this fondant so that I can stick some sugar to it, and then it's gonna look like real snow. I also created this little kind of contained area in the center that I'm gonna fill with melted isomalt. It looks like kind of a frozen over pond. I just let this fondant set up for just a few minutes so it was a little bit firmer. Now I can get to attaching the sugar. I just wanna take a piece of parchment and I'll put it under my board. Granulated sugar, I'll sprinkle it all over top. All of this sugar, because of that piping gel, just sticks to the board and it ends up looking really cool. So to really take this snowy board over the top, what I wanna do is take some pearl luster dust, just kind of tap it and let it go wherever it wants to. So I get this nice kind of glistening highlight. Ends up making a really nice effect. So it's a cool thing to experiment with. So I have this space in the center that I want to fill with melted isomalt so it looks like kind of a frozen over pond. I took some isomalt, cooked it on the stove, and then I left it in the oven so that it could settle and the bubbles could kind of rise to the top. I'm gonna grab that and I'll pour it right in the center. So what's really cool about isomalt is that it starts out clear and you can color it any color you want. To make this ice for the center of the pond, I actually added a little bit of white food color and then just a little bit of crystal blue food color. And these fondant ripples that I have on the outside of the pond here will act as like a little container and hold everything in place. As soon as it cools down, it'll get nice and hard, just like glass, and then I can stack my cakes right over the center. I'm not really feeling any heat coming off of this isomalt, so I think it's cool enough to start stacking my tiers. What I want to do is use ganache to attach my first cake to the board, and my cakes are cold, so the ganache sets up really quick. I have a 7-inch tier, a 6-inch, a 5-inch, and then a 4-inch. It's gonna give me a tiered cake that's kind of really tall and skinny that has like a really dramatic look. Just make sure that's centered. You can see how cool this looks. Once it's covered with these isomalt shards, I think it's gonna look really, really awesome. Now I can grab my isomalt shards and I can start attaching them to my cake. To make our isomalt shards, we melted some isomalt and then dyed it with some white and some crystal blue food coloring. Then we took the isomalt and poured it into blind sheet pans. It sets up to a taffy-like consistency, and imprint the isomalt so that when it cools, we can break it into shards that'll be the perfect shape to cover the cake. Before I even break up my isomalt shards, I just want to put on some gloves because isomalt really loves to pick up fingerprints. These are scored, and now that they're cool, it should be really easy to just break them. Sometimes these do break in random size pieces, but the whole point of scoring them is to kind of coach them to break in a certain way. It's good to have some smaller pieces too, because then if any cake is peeking through, I can kind of cover the gaps up. I want to use melted white chocolate to attach the isomalt to the cake because it'll firm up really quickly. So I'll just put just a little bit just on the back like that, just kind of press it into place. This kind of feels like a puzzle to me. It's kind of something that just happens really organically, how all of these pieces are going to fit together. A smaller piece to kind of fill in this space right here. And then I'll use a little freeze spray just so my chocolate stays in place. This freeze spray, it's actually just really cold compressed air. Makes chocolate set really quickly. And I just want to make sure that I am filling in these gaps. Isomalt is actually really sharp. When you break it like this, sometimes it gets really sharp edges, so it's kind of a hazard to eat. It's kind of sharp. I'm gonna kind of just work along the very top. Just a few more pieces of this isomalt and kind of push these right into the cake and they'll kind of stay in place. This ice malt looks really incredible. The whole thing looks really dramatic, which I love, but I do think I need just a few more pieces to set the winter scene. So my kitchen was helping me put together some trees. Thanks, Andre. And these awesome little characters that my friend Shannon put together. Really fun stuff that's gonna set the scene here, but the trees are actually really simple and they're fun to make. It just starts with some green fondant, knead it until it's nice and soft, and then you kind of roll it into a tree shape. You just take a pair of scissors. You don't cut in all the way, just clip little spots. Take my finger and just make them a little more pointy. Take my gloves off for this. Put this on a toothpick though as I get towards the base because it's a little difficult to hold. Set this in place, let it dry. And then when they dry, they look just like this. And I take a little paintbrush with some white luster dust and just kind of kiss the very tips of the tree and it looks like fresh snow on the evergreens. I'll take this one and put it towards the back. Slightly smaller one and put that one right behind it. Before I fill up my board too much, I want to get to placing down my little snow girl, and these are really fun. It's actually just gum paste. You mold it together, let it dry. I'll put her right here, kind of like she's just making some snow angels, just hanging out. And then I have this other fun one that's really bundled up and ready for winter. We actually have these feet on toothpicks, and I'll just put the toothpicks in, and then I can press her right into the board. I'll go for a smaller one right here, that'd be cute. No matter what way you look at it, you get to see something fun. So I don't want to leave any spaces too empty. When I finish a cake like this and I look at it, it just makes all the work worth it because it's just so impressive. It's so dramatic. I've never covered a cake with isomalt shards like this, and it's probably a technique that I'll be using again because it's just so beautiful. So Food Network challenged me to create a winter-inspired cake with edible, realistic ice. So I created a 4-tier cake, covered the entire thing with edible isomalt ice, and finished the whole thing off with some fondant evergreen trees and cute snowy little characters. I think I definitely skated circles around this challenge. This cake turned out so gorgeous, so majestic. I almost don't want to cut it, but I always got to cut my cakes. I take so much time putting them together. I always like to get a slice. So I think I'll go right for the top. Oh, how about that? That actually looks really cool. All right, I'm gonna go in. So delicious, so absolutely show-stoppingly gorgeous. One of my favorite cakes so far. Did you love this cake? Make sure to subscribe to Food Network and leave your comments below.